My name is Tori Barrett. I was 30 years old when I graduated from Army basic training. 10 weeks of 4:30 wake-ups, gas chamber drills, and learning to disassemble an M4 in under 60 seconds. I earned it. Every mile, every push-up, every sleepless night in the Georgia humidity. Graduation day at Fort Moore was bright and loud. 300 recruits lined up in formation. Pressed uniforms, boots polished to mirrors. The bleachers behind us were packed. I could hear them before I saw them. Mothers crying, fathers whistling, kids holding homemade signs with glitter letters. I looked over my shoulder once during the ceremony. Section F, row 3, seats 7, 8, and 9. I had given those seat numbers to my father, my mother, and my sister 6 weeks earlier. All 3 chairs were empty. After the ceremony, every recruit around me disappeared into a wall of hugs. I stood in formation, holding my certificate, and watched. A stranger's mother walked up to me, put her hand on my shoulder, and said, "We're proud of you, honey." But the empty chairs were just the start. What my dad texted me 3 weeks later, and what happened when I finally changed those locks. That's where this story truly begins. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. This is where we share stories about family betrayal, quiet strength, and the moment someone finally says enough. If this story hits close to home, drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. Let me tell you about the Barrett family. My father, Ray Barrett, was a plumber in Collinsville, Illinois. Made $62,000 a year, owned his house outright, drove a Ford F-150. He washed every Sunday like it was a church ritual. He was the kind of man who kept a running tab of every dollar he spent on his children. Not on paper, in his head, and he never let you forget the total. My mother, Diane, was a homemaker who deferred every decision to Ray. What to eat, where to vacation, which daughter deserved what. She had opinions, but she stored them in the same place she stored the good china, behind glass for display, only. Then there was Megan, my older sister, 3 years ahead of me in everything except accountability. Megan got the new prom dress. I got the hem taken up on hers. Megan got $2,000 for a first car. I got bus fare and a suggestion to apply at the Dairy Queen on Route 9. When Megan moved into her first apartment, our parents paid the deposit. When I moved into mine, my father said, "You're smart. You'll figure it out." And I did figure it out every single time. Before I left for basic training, I gave my parents a spare key to our house, mine and Jake's house. We had bought it 2 years earlier with a VA loan and my savings from 6 years as a civilian logistics coordinator. I handed the key to my father at the kitchen table and said, "Just in case you need to check on the house while I'm gone." He took it without saying thank you, slipped it onto his key ring like it belonged there. I should have noticed that. I enlisted at 28. People ask me why so late. The honest answer was that I spent my 20s doing what my family should have helped me do at 18. I put myself through college at Southern Illinois University, logistics management degree. Worked 3 jobs at once. Morning shift at a warehouse. Afternoon tutoring at the campus writing center. Weekends at a catering company. Graduated with $11,000 in student loans and not a single dollar from my parents. My father's logic was simple. Megan needed help because Megan struggled. I didn't need help because I didn't struggle. The fact that I didn't struggle because I worked myself into exhaustion was a detail he chose to ignore. After college, I worked for a supply chain firm in St. Louis. Good job, steady, but I wanted more structure, more meaning. Jake had served 4 years in the Army before we met, and he talked about it the way some people talk about the place that shaped them. So, at 28, I walked into a recruiter's office and signed. My father's reaction was a shrug. "Well, that's your decision," my mother said. "Just be careful, honey." Megan said, "Does that mean you won't be around for my engagement party?" Before I shipped out to Fort Moore, I set up an automatic transfer, $400 a month from my checking account to my father's. He never asked for it directly, but every Thanksgiving he'd mention how tight things were, how property taxes went up again, how Megan needed this or that. So I set it up. An automatic guilt payment deposited on the 1st of every month. I also paid off Megan's credit card twice. $1,200 the first time, $2,300 the second. She said she'd pay me back. She never mentioned it again. Basic training stripped everything down to the essentials. You learned who you were when no one was watching and no one was helping. Every Sunday, I had 10 minutes to call home. The army gave us those minutes like ration water. Precious, measured, never enough. I called my mother every week. Week 1, she asked how I was. I told her about the drill sergeants, the barracks, the red Georgia clay that stained everything. She listened for about 90 seconds, then shifted. Megan found a venue, the Grandview Estate. It's beautiful, Tori. $300 a plate. Week 3. I called again. My father answered Diane's phone. Your mother's at a cake tasting with Megan. I'll tell her you called. He hung up before I could say anything else. The call lasted 41 seconds. Week 5, I tried my father's cell directly. No answer. I tried again the next Sunday. No answer. The Sunday after that, same thing. 3 weeks in a row. I stopped calling him. The only mail I received at Fort Moore came from Jake. A postcard with a picture of our dog, Biscuit, sitting on the front porch. On the back, Jake wrote, "House is standing. Dog is fat. Proud of you. Come home soon." I kept that postcard in my cargo pocket for 5 weeks. Drill Sergeant Reeves noticed. She was a compact woman with a voice that could strip paint off a Humvee. One morning during formation, she pulled me aside. "Barrett, family day is next week. You got anyone coming?" I looked her in the eye. "Yes, Drill Sergeant." She held my gaze for 2 seconds longer than needed. She knew drill sergeants always know. She nodded once and walked away. I had lied. Nobody was coming. Family day was the day before graduation. The base opened its gates and families flooded in like a dam had broken. SUVs with bumper stickers. Minivans with balloons taped to antennas. Grandparents in lawn chairs. Toddlers in matching outfits. I watched from the barracks window. Sergeant Reeves found me 20 minutes later. "Barrett, come with me." She walked me across the parade field to a family clustered around a recruit named Lewis. His mother was a wide woman with a loud laugh and a cooler full of fried chicken. His father wore a veteran's cap. His little sister kept jumping on Lewis's back. "Mrs. Lewis, this is Specialist Barrett. She could use some company today." Mrs. Lewis didn't ask questions. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like cornbread and said, "Well, come sit down, baby. You hungry?" I ate fried chicken with strangers while my own mother was trying on Mother of the Bride hats with Megan at a boutique in Edwardsville. I know this because Diane posted the photo to our family group chat at 2:14 that afternoon. She was smiling, a new hat price tag still dangling from the brim. Graduation the next morning was a blur of speeches and salutes. I crossed the stage, shook the commander's hand, received my certificate, and looked out at the bleachers one more time. Section F, row 3. 3 empty chairs. After the ceremony, I checked my phone. One text from my mother. "Sorry, honey. Dad's helping Megan with the venue deposit. We'll celebrate when you're home. You understand, right? You understand, right?" 4 words my mother used like a skeleton key. They unlocked every door she never wanted to walk through herself. I understood perfectly. Jake was waiting at Lambert Airport with a handwritten sign that read PFC Barrett and a grin that made the entire terminal fade for a second. He hugged me in baggage claim, long tight, his chin resting on top of my head. "I'm sorry they didn't come." "I know." We drove home. Biscuit nearly knocked me over at the front door. I unpacked my duffel, hung my dress uniform in the closet, and sat on the bed for a long time without moving. The next day, I drove to my parents' house, 15 minutes across town. Diane opened the door in a bathrobe, coffee in hand, a surprised look on her face. "Oh, Tori, when did you get back?" "Yesterday." "Well, come in. Your father's in the den." Ray was watching a Cardinals game. He looked up, nodded, and said, "Hey, kid, you lose weight." That was it. No congratulations, no questions about training, no mention of the graduation they missed. He turned back to the game. Megan arrived 20 minutes later with a white binder labeled Barrett Cole Wedding in gold lettering on the spine. She sat at the kitchen table and talked for 30 straight minutes. Seating charts, florist prices, DJ deposits, bridesmaid dress colors. She didn't ask a single question about basic training. I sat there listening, and something inside me shifted. Not anger exactly, more like a lock clicking open. A door I had been pushing against for years finally swinging wide. On the drive home, I checked my banking app. The $400 automatic transfer had gone through on the 1st, just like every month. No acknowledgement, no thank you text, only a silent withdrawal and an empty inbox. I found out about the garage on a Tuesday. Jake had mentioned it briefly during training, but he downplayed it. Your dad brought some things over. Said he needed the space. I imagined a box or two, maybe a fishing rod. When I opened the garage door, I stopped. Ray had moved in half his shed. 3 fishing rods mounted on a wall rack drilled straight into my drywall. A red Craftsman tool chest, 6 drawers deep, heavy enough to break a spine. A mini fridge plugged into my outlet, humming softly. A folding table with his tackle box spread across it. 2 unmarked cardboard boxes shoved against the far wall. Jake came up behind me. Yeah, that happened around week 3. He drilled into the wall. He had the spare key. He came over when I was at work. I called my father that evening, keeping my voice steady. Dad, you put a lot of your things in our garage. Had the key, didn't I? House was empty half the day. Needed the space. You drilled into the drywall. Just a couple of anchors. Calm down. I didn't argue. I hung up and spent the next 45 minutes photographing everything in the garage. Time-stamped every image. Then I wrote a list on a yellow legal pad. Item, condition, estimated value. 3 full pages. After that, I opened my banking app and canceled the $400 automatic transfer. Effective immediately. I didn't tell anyone. Not Jake. Not Diane. Not Ray. I simply shut off the faucet and waited to see how long it would take them to notice the water was gone. It took 11 days. 11 days after I canceled the transfer, my mother called. Tori, honey, your father checked the account. The deposit didn't come through this month. I stopped it, Mom. Silence. Not the comfortable kind, the kind where you can hear someone recalculating their entire story in real time. You can't do that. Your father depends on that money. Dad makes $62,000 a year. The house is paid off. His truck is 3 years old. He doesn't depend on my $400. That's not the point. Family helps family. Family shows up, Mom. Another silence. Then the shift, smooth, practiced. After everything we've done for you, Tori, after your father worked double shifts to keep a roof over your head, what exactly did you do for me that you didn't do for Megan? Name one thing. She couldn't. Not because there wasn't an answer, but because the answer was the problem. 10 minutes later, Ray called. What's this about you cutting off the money? I stopped the automatic transfer. That's $400 a month, Tori. Your sister's wedding is in 2 months and you're doing this now. Megan's wedding has nothing to do with my bank account. Family shows up, Tori. Family steps up. You didn't show up to my graduation, Dad. 5 seconds of silence. I counted them. Then the line went dead. I set the phone down on the kitchen counter. Jake looked up from the couch. That went well. About what I expected. He nodded and went back to his book. Biscuit rested her head on my knee. I scratched behind her ears, staring at the wall. The first domino had fallen. I could feel the rest starting to shake. Tori, I just cut off the money. Her dad's furious. But when the real demand comes in, the one that changes everything, you won't believe what happens next. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning in October, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I was making eggs. Jake was reading news at the table. Biscuit lay under it, waiting for scraps. A normal morning. Text from Dad. Tori, I need $8,000 for your sister's wedding. Venue deposit due Friday. Send it to my account. I read it twice, not because I didn't understand it, but because I needed to confirm the level of audacity. No greeting. No how are you. No request. Just I need and send it, like ordering a pickup. I walked to Jake and held out my phone. He read it, set his tablet down, and removed his glasses. He can't be serious. He is. I opened Instagram. Megan's profile. Her latest post, a mirror selfie in a bridal boutique, trying on a gown with a cathedral train. Tagged store. Price listed, $4,200. She was trying on a $4,000 dress while our father texted me for $8,000. I placed my phone face down on the counter, walked into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and stood under the water for 12 minutes. I wasn't crying. I was calculating. $12,000 in monthly transfers over 30 months. $3,500 in credit card bailouts for Megan. Zero support for my education. Zero presents at my graduation. And now another $8,000. Not a request, but a command. I turned off the water, looked in the mirror, and knew exactly what I was going to do. Jake was still at the kitchen table when I came out. He had already poured me a fresh cup of coffee. He didn't speak until I sat down. "What do you want to do?" That was Jake. No pressure, no lectures, no steering. Just space to think. "Let me think out loud for a second." He nodded. "In the past 2.5 years, I've sent my father $12,000 through automatic transfers. I paid Megan's credit card off twice. $1,200 and $2,300. That's $15,500 total. No one has ever asked Megan to contribute to anything. Not once." Jake leaned back. "And now he wants 8 more. Not wants. Needs." He wrote it like it was already decided, and I was just the delivery system. "What are you thinking?" I picked up my phone, opened Venmo, and stared at the screen. I'm thinking about giving my father exactly what he's worth. Jake watched me for a long moment. Then the corner of his mouth moved, barely. Not a smile, more like recognition. He had seen this version of me before. Quiet. Certain. Finished. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He stood up, came over, and kissed the top of my head. Then he went back to the couch and picked up his book. That was Jake. He never told me what to do. Never pushed. He just asked what I wanted, and stepped out of the way. After a lifetime of being assigned roles by everyone else, his silence felt like the strongest support I'd ever known. I looked back at the Venmo screen. My thumb hovered. $8. Even the memo line was simple. Best wishes. My thumb stayed over the send button for 10 seconds. Jake glanced up from his book. He didn't speak, just raised his eyebrows slightly. I had sent. Confirmation popped up. $8 to Ray Barrett. Best wishes. I set the phone down and went back to the stove. The eggs had gone cold. I dumped them, started fresh. 47 minutes of silence followed. I know because I checked the clock when the first call came in. Missed call from Dad. Then another. Then another. A text from my mother. "Call your father immediately." Then Megan. "Are you serious right now, Tori?" I didn't respond to any of them. I turned the ringer off, slid the phone into the kitchen drawer with the junk mail and dead batteries, and closed it. Jake and I ate breakfast anyway. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. We talked about the kitchen faucet and whether Biscuit needed a vet visit. Ordinary things. Safe things. By noon, I was cooking dinner early, spaghetti sauce simmering on the stove. I cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry, took Biscuit around the block. Somewhere across town, my family was unraveling over $8, and I was folding towels. It was the quietest I had felt in years. That evening, I finally checked my phone. 11 missed calls. 6 texts. 1 voicemail from my father. "You have 1 week to fix this, or forget you have a father." Back in the drawer it went. Then the family group chat exploded. Megan started it. Screenshot of my Venmo, $8, best wishes. No caption. Just the image. Let it speak for itself. Aunt Gloria replied within a minute. Asterisk, "That's cruel, Tori. Your father asked for help." Asterisk. Uncle Frank. Asterisk, "He asked nicely. You should be ashamed." Asterisk. My mother. "I raised you better than this." Cousin Amy stayed silent, as always. Messages piled up fast. 14 minutes, 20 minutes, each one the same story. I was selfish. Ungrateful. Destroying the family. Not one message mentioned graduation. Not one asked why it was $8 instead of $8,000. Not one questioned the demand itself. Then I saw the message that froze everything. Uncle Frank, replying to Megan's screenshot. Asterisk, "Ray still has the key to her house. Maybe you should go talk to her in person." Asterisk. I read it 3 times. My father had a key to my house, and my uncle was casually suggesting he use it to show up uninvited. and nobody thought that was a problem. I turned toward Jake. He was on the couch, half focused on his phone. I held mine up. He read it. His expression tightened immediately. "We're changing the locks," I said. He was already reaching for his jacket. "Tonight," I added. He nodded. "I'll be back in 30 minutes. The door shut behind him. The house went quiet in a way that felt different. Jake returned with a Home Depot bag. New deadbolt, new knob, keypad lock, garage keypad reset. He started at the front door while I handed him tools from the drawer. Porch lights spilling over his shoulders as he worked. While he drilled, I went to the garage, and I saw everything my father had placed there like it was his own. 3 fishing rods bolted into my wall. A red Craftsman tool chest, fully loaded. A mini fridge plugged into my outlet. A folding table. 2 unmarked boxes. I photographed everything. Angles, timestamps, detail shots. Then I wrote an inventory on a legal pad. Item, condition, estimated value. 3 pages. I put it in a folder and left it on the counter. Then I texted Ray. "Your personal items are in our garage. You have 7 days to arrange pickup during daylight hours. Call first." No reply. Jake finished the front door by 9:15. He replaced the garage keypad next, tested it twice, then checked every window lock in the house. That was who he was. No loose ends. At 9:40, he sat beside me. "All done." Then he hesitated. "I found something in your dad's tool chest." He held out a brass key. Fresh cut. A duplicate of my spare key. My father had secretly made a copy. I took it and dropped it straight into the trash. But it wasn't the locks or the garage that broke something open. It was the group chat. I didn't mean to scroll. I just kept going back. 4 months earlier when I enlisted. "Megan, if Tori joins basic, who's helping my wedding?" My mother. Asterisk, don't worry. She'll still send money. She always does, asterisk. Then my father. "That girl has been our backup plan since she got her first job at 16. Backup plan." I read it once. Then again. Then again. I kept scrolling. 2 years earlier. "Megan needs a car. Tori, I can figure it out." "Diane, should we help her rent?" "Ray, she's fine. She always is." She was always fine. Because I was never allowed not to be. Because nobody ever gave me the option not to be. I sat in my car inside the garage for a long time. The new keypad code glowed green in the dark. The engine was off. The overhead light had already timed out. I was sitting there in silence, reading messages I was never supposed to see. My mother's voice from graduation kept replaying in my head. "You understand, right?" I understood. I understood everything. I was never the daughter they forgot. I was the daughter they expected to forget herself. The one who always figured it out. The one who always sent the money. The backup plan. I let myself cry for 5 minutes. Then I stopped. Wiped my face with my sleeve. Took 3 slow breaths. I had already cried enough for people who never cried for me. I went inside. Jake was at the kitchen table with his laptop open, not really reading it. I placed my phone down and slid it toward him. "Read the screenshots." He picked it up and scrolled. His expression barely changed, but I knew his tells, the slight shift in his jaw, the way his breathing slowed. He was angry, but it was controlled. Contained. The way someone learns to hold it after years of knowing losing control doesn't fix anything. He set the phone down. "Backup plan since I was 16. That was all he said. No apology. No instructions. No judgment. Just his hand covering mine. We sat like that for a while. The kitchen clock ticked. Biscuits snored under the table. Outside, a sprinkler clicked on. In my head, I started listing everything. Every time I had been the one to figure it out. Every hand-me-down I made work. Every scholarship I applied for alone. Every Sunday call spent listening to Megan's life while no one asked about mine. The prom. The car. The apartment deposit. The credit cards. The auto transfers. $15,500. That was the number. And it didn't even include what couldn't be measured. "I'm done understanding," I said. Jake squeezed my hand once. "What's next?" "His stuff is still in the garage. 4 days left on the deadline. And if he doesn't..." Then he doesn't. I stood up, rinsed my coffee mug, and went to bed. I slept hard that night. Dreamless. The kind of sleep that comes when something heavy finally gets set down. 4 days left. Day 5 came and went with no word from Ray. I got home from work at the logistics office on base. Jake's truck was already in the driveway. Everything looked normal from the outside. Inside, Jake was at the kitchen table with his laptop. He turned it toward me without a word. Ring doorbell footage. Timestamp: 2:17 p.m. My father's truck pulled into the driveway. Ray stepped out, walked straight to the garage, entered the old code. Wrong. Tried again. Wrong. A third time. Wrong. He walked to the front door, used the old key, turned it. Nothing. The deadbolt held. He stepped back, staring at the door like it had betrayed him. Then he returned to the garage and kicked it. Hard. The camera caught everything. The impact, the dent, the scuff mark his boot left behind. He stood there for 20 minutes. Just standing. Then he got back in his truck and drove away. 20 minutes later, a text came in. Open the door, Tori. This is ridiculous. I just want my stuff. I replied. I already gave you instructions. Call first. Daylight hours. We'll be home. Ray. I don't need permission to go to my daughter's house. Me. It's not your house, Dad. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Nothing after that. That evening, Jake photographed the scuff mark and added it to the manila folder. Date, time, description. I wasn't collecting evidence because I wanted a fight. I was collecting it because I had learned something early, first in the army, then in life. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. Day 6, my mother showed up at Fort Scott. She couldn't get through the gate. No military sponsor. So she waited in the visitor lot and called me. I met her in uniform. She leaned against her car, arms crossed, eyes already red. Your father can't sleep, she said immediately. He's not eating. You're tearing this family apart. He tore it apart when he skipped my graduation. That's not fair. Megan needed help that day. I needed you there. I stood alone in a uniform in front of 300 soldiers. A stranger's mother told me she was proud of me. Diane's expression wavered. If you don't give him the money, he's going to take it personally. You know how he gets. There it was. Not concern. Not apology. A warning dressed like care. He can feel however he wants, Mom. The answer is still no. She stared at me for a long time. Then she got in her car and drove away without another word. Day 7, the deadline. No call. No text. No pickup arranged. That morning, I sent one final message. Your 7-day window has expired. Your items are boxed in the garage. You may schedule a supervised pickup this weekend. After Sunday, they will be donated. 2 minutes later, his reply came. You don't get to throw away my property. That's theft. I showed Jake. He shook his head. It's not theft. We gave him notice. I knew that. But this wasn't about law. It was about control. The same pattern he had used since I was 16. Declare ownership, demand compliance, punish resistance. That afternoon, I organized everything one last time. Printed texts. Time-stamped photos. Doorbell footage on a USB. Inventory sheets. The legal pad notes. The scuff mark image. The deadline message. His lack of response. Everything went into the manila folder. Jake looked at it. That's thorough. The army taught me something, I said. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. He nodded. Everything happened, I said. And I've got proof. Saturday morning came. We were both home. The house was clean. The folder sat on the table. The new deadbolt was locked. The doorbell rang at 9:15. Tori gave her dad 7 days. He didn't pick up a single thing. Now the deadline had passed, and suddenly he was calling it theft. But what happens next when the doorbell rings on Saturday morning? That's the moment everything shifts. Stay with me. This is where it turns real. I opened the front door. My father was standing on the porch in work boots and a flannel shirt, hands at his sides, jaw tight. Behind him, in the driveway, my mother sat in the passenger seat of his truck with the engine running. I want my stuff, he said. Come in through the front. We'll take you to the garage. He didn't move. I'm not being escorted inside my own daughter's house like a criminal. You're not being escorted. We're just present. There's a difference. His eyes flicked past me to Jake standing in the hallway. Something changed in his expression. Not anger, calculation. Then he stepped inside. We walked him to the garage. Jake opened it from the inside panel. Everything was lined up neatly against the wall. Labeled boxes. Fishing rods wrapped in bubble wrap with tags. The tool chest wiped clean, drawers shut. The mini fridge unplugged, defrosted and wiped down. The tackle box latched and placed on top of the stacked boxes. Ray stopped in the doorway. He stared. He had expected chaos. Garbage bags. Disrespect. Something he could react to. Instead, everything was organized, documented, ready. Military precision. He didn't thank us. He walked straight to the tool chest, opened the bottom drawer, and felt underneath the liner. Then looked up at me. The keys were gone. I found it, Jake said quietly. We disposed of it. Ray's nostrils flared. He closed the drawer and started loading the truck. I handed him items as he needed them. No one spoke. Only the scrape of boxes on concrete and the groan of the tailgate under weight. Halfway through, he stopped. He turned slowly, leaned against the tailgate, arms crossed. You think you're so smart. His voice was low, controlled, but barely. You changed the locks. Cut me off. Sent your mother crying out of a parking lot. I didn't respond. I raised you, Tori. I put food on the table for 18 years. Roof over your head. I taught you everything. And this is what I get? $8 and a deadbolt. You didn't come to my graduation, Dad. He waved it off like it meant nothing. It was basic training. That's not a real graduation. Your sister's wedding, that's a real event. That matters. Not a real graduation. 10 weeks of training. Gas chamber drills. Rifle qualification. Standing in formation while a rank was pinned on my uniform. He dismissed all of it like it was nothing. Jake stepped forward. Sir, with respect, your daughter served. That was real. Ray snapped his finger toward him. This is between me and my daughter. Stay out of it. I stepped forward, placing myself between them, not aggressively, just firmly. Jake is my family, Dad. He showed up. You didn't. That landed. Ray's hand dropped. His expression shifted, confusion, then anger, then something else underneath it. Something unsettled. Like he was realizing the structure he relied on wasn't there anymore. He finished loading the last box, slammed the tailgate shut, and got in the truck. My mother didn't look at me. Not once. The truck pulled away. Silence returned. Monday morning, my phone rang at 8:45. Megan. The first time she'd called directly since the Venmo incident. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. Her voice was controlled, carefully rehearsed. Look, I know things are tense with Dad, but the wedding is really important to me. Can we just fix the money situation? I don't need all $8,000. Even $3,000 would help. What did you contribute to my graduation, Megan? What? That was basic training. Everyone does that. And everyone has a wedding. Not everyone asks their sister for $8,000. Silence. I could hear her breathing shift. The tone was slipping. You've always been jealous of me, she said finally. This isn't about money. It's because your life was harder. Being honest isn't bitterness. Saying no isn't jealousy. Her voice went sharp. Fine. Then don't come to my wedding. I'm not inviting someone who resents me on my day. Okay. That pause caught her off guard. What? Okay. That's all you have to say? What would you like me to say? She hung up. I set the phone down and took a sip of coffee. Outside, a cardinal perched on the fence. Biscuit pressed her nose to the glass and whined softly. I hadn't planned on going to the wedding anyway. But the invitation being revoked still landed somewhere. Not where she thought it would. Just somewhere quiet. That week, I did something I had never done before. I built a case file. Not for court. Not for anyone else. For clarity. Every evening after work, I sat at the kitchen table and turned everything into structure. A timeline. Clean. Factual. No emotion. $400 monthly transfers. 30 months. $12,000 total. Megan's credit card bailouts. $3,500 total. Total family financial reliance on me. $15,500. Family members present at my graduation. 0. Days between graduation and $8,000 demand. 22. I called Corporal Lewis. Lou, how do you handle family stuff like this? Keep everything in writing. Don't argue on calls. And if they show up uninvited, call the police first. The police. Set the record first. Whoever calls first controls the story. That stuck with me. That night, I drafted a message in the family group chat. Didn't send it. Just saved it. Graduation. Money. Garage. Key. Copy of the copy. Backup plan comment. Everything. Chronological. Factual. I showed Jake. He read it twice. It's not cruel, he said. It's just accurate. That's what makes it dangerous. I saved it. The wedding was 9 days away. Megan's wedding was on a Saturday in November. Cold. Gray sky. The kind of weather that looks better in edited photos. Jake and I stayed home. I made chili. He raked leaves. Biscuit chased squirrels like it was her full-time job. We didn't talk about the wedding until my phone started buzzing after 4 p.m. Social media notifications. Photos started appearing. Megan in white, glowing. Ray walking her down the aisle in a rented suit, chest high proud. Diane in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief. I scrolled through the photos the way you watch a film about strangers. Interested, maybe, but distant, like I was observing someone else's family, which in a way, I was. At 5:22, cousin Amy texted me privately. Everyone noticed you're not here. Your dad told people you were deployed overseas and couldn't make it. Deployed? My father told 100 wedding guests that I was deployed. I was sitting on my couch in sweatpants, for miles from the venue, eating chili. He lied, Amy added, followed by an eye roll emoji. I stared at the screen. He didn't just skip my graduation. He erased my absence from his story. Rewrote it so he could still be the proud military father, instead of the man whose daughter stopped answering his calls. Jake walked in from the backyard, leaves stuck in his hair. You okay? Yeah. I think I am. And I meant it. That evening at 8:14, during the reception, I opened the family group chat and pasted the message I had written a week earlier. The timeline, the numbers, the facts. I pressed send. Every phone at the head table lit up at once. Within 3 minutes, the chat exploded. Aunt Gloria first, as always. Tori, this is Megan's day. How could you do this? Uncle Frank went quiet after reading it. The breakdown was there. $12,000 in transfers, $3,500 in credit card bailouts, $15,500 total. He didn't comment again that night. My mother wrote, "This is lies. We never called you a backup plan." I didn't respond. I had already said everything that needed saying. The document spoke for itself. At 11:47 that night, I got a text, not in the group chat, just from Megan. She attached a selfie. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, wedding dress wrinkled at the hem, bathroom stall behind her. You ruined my wedding. I typed one line back. I wasn't there. How could I ruin it? No reply came. My father said nothing. No text. No call. No voicemail. Complete silence. And that silence unsettled me more than anger ever did. I had seen him furious. I had seen him threatening. But I had never seen him disappear. Jake and I watched a movie that night. Something loud, full of explosions. I fell asleep halfway through. He covered me with a blanket and let me sleep until morning. Sunday was calm. I didn't check the chat. Didn't call anyone. I took Biscuit to the park, bought groceries, made dinner, lived a completely ordinary Sunday. Monday came and went. Tuesday followed the same rhythm. Then Tuesday afternoon my desk phone rang. Front desk. Specialist Barrett, you have a call on line 2. Collinsville Police Department. My stomach dropped, then steadied. Put it through. A man's voice came on the line. Ma'am, this is Officer Davis with the Collinsville Police Department. We received a complaint from a Raymond Barrett regarding property at your residence on Elm Street. He's alleging theft and unlawful lockout. I sat up straighter. Officer, I understand. I can explain everything. Would you like to come to the house? We're sending an officer now. Can you be there in about 30 minutes? Yes, ma'am. I'll be there. I hung up, took one breath, and called Jake. My dad called the police on us. A puzz. I'll have everything ready. Meet you at home. I told my sergeant I had a personal matter and left base. The drive home took 14 minutes. Both hands on the wheel. No speeding. No rushing. My father had called the police. Not because of theft. Not because of threats. But because I stopped giving. Because I changed a lock. Because I sent $8 instead of $8,000 and told the truth in a group chat. When everything else failed, guilt, pressure, my mother's tears, my sister's demands, the spare key, the garage, the disownment threat, he escalated to the final card. Authority. I pulled into the driveway at 3:42. A squad car was parked outside. Jake's truck was already there. Porch light on. I killed the engine, stepped out, and walked inside. 2 officers stood in the foyer. Officer Davis was a woman near my age, hair tied back, professional. Her partner, Officer Chen, stood beside her with a notepad. We received a complaint, Davis said. Mind if we sit? Of course. We moved to the dining table. Jake was already there, the manila folder open. He didn't say a word. Just laid it out like a briefing. First page, the 7-day notice text, timestamped. Second, ring footage stills, garage code attempts, front door key, kick to the garage. Third, photos of every item in the garage, all labeled and dated. Fourth, deed, properties solely in the names of Jacob and Tori Barrett. Davis studied it. Chen wrote notes. No one spoke for nearly 2 minutes. Finally, Davis looked up. Ma'am, this appears to be a civil matter. Not criminal. Across the street, my father's truck sat parked. He was watching. Then came the knock. Hard. 3 times. Davis opened the door. Ray stood there. Chest forward. Jaw tight. Already angry. He stepped inside without waiting. That's my property. I want it back. And I want her charged. Davis stayed calm. Sir, your daughter provided written notice. You attempted entry without authorization. The property is legally owned by her and her husband. This is a civil issue. His face flushed. She changed the locks on me. I had a key. Homeowners may change locks at any time. He turned to me. Full pivot. Like he expected the room to obey him. After everything I did for you, this is how you treat me. Cops? Locks? $8. I looked at him. My voice stayed steady. You didn't come to my graduation. Pause. And 3 weeks later, you asked me for $8,000. You moved your things into my garage without asking. You made a copy of my house key without telling me. You tried to break in after I changed the locks. I paused. Let the silence sit there. You kept saying, you understand, right? My voice stayed steady. Yeah, Dad. I finally understand. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. His hands were shaking, not grief, but the kind of anger that has nowhere left to go. He looked at Officer Davis, searching for backup. Her expression didn't change. Professional. Neutral. Davis spoke calmly. Sir, I recommend you arrange a mutually agreed time to collect your remaining property. Any further disputes will need to be handled through civil court. Ray turned and walked out. The front door swung open behind him and stayed that way. The truck door slammed. Engine started hard. Tires bit into the asphalt as he pulled away. Then quiet. Officer Davis gathered the paperwork and handed the folder back to Jake. Ma'am, she said, pausing at the door, for what it's worth, you handled that appropriately. A lot of people don't document things like this. Thank you, officer. One more thing, if he returns without permission, call us immediately. That becomes trespassing. Then they left. I watched the squad car disappear down the street from the window. Then I closed the door, turned the new deadbolt, pressed my back against the wood, and stood there. Jake came up behind me. He didn't speak, didn't touch me, just stood close enough that I could feel him, far enough that I had space. It's done, I said. It's done, he replied. I walked into the kitchen, Opened the drawer beside the stove, the one with rubber bands, spare batteries, and a screwdriver. There used to be a brass hook inside the cabinet wall. That hook held my father's spare key for 2 years. The hook was still there. The key wasn't. I had thrown it away. Jake had thrown away the copy. I unscrewed the hook. 2 small screws. 30 seconds. I held it in my palm. Just a small brass hook. Nothing important. Maybe 50 cents at any hardware store. But it had held something that never belonged there. I dropped it into the trash. It landed on coffee grounds with a soft click. Some things don't need a place anymore. That evening, Jake and I sat on the back porch with Biscuit between us. The neighborhood was quiet. Crickets, a distant mower, ordinary sounds you only notice when chaos finally stops. I checked my phone. 4 missed calls from Diane. 1 text from Megan. Dad is saying he's going to sue you. I turned the phone off and set it face down. Do you think I went too far? I asked. Jake looked at me. Really looked. Careful, deliberate. You sent facts in a group chat. You changed your own locks. You cooperated with the police. Where exactly is too far in that? I leaned back. Thought about Sergeant Reeves. About standing in formation with empty chairs behind me. Family shows up, I said quietly. Jake nodded. Family shows up. You showed up, Jake. I always will. We sat there until the light faded. Biscuits snored between us. My phone buzzed once more before I turned it off completely. Cousin Amy, hey. I read your message in the group chat. I had no idea. The money, the graduation, none of it. I'm really sorry, Tori. I typed back. Thank you, Amy. That means more than you know. And it did. 3 weeks after the police came, I donated the remaining items from my father. He never called. Never showed up. Never followed through on the lawsuit Megan threatened. Just silence. The loudest silence I had ever heard from Ray Barrett. The tool chest went first. Then the fishing rods. The tackle box. The folding table. The boxes. One held old hunting magazines. The other had drill bits, and a framed photo of Ray at 25 standing beside his father. Neither of them smiling. I stared at it longer than I should have, then placed it in the donation pile anyway. My mother sent a letter. 2 pages. Handwritten. Roses on the border. Page 1 was guilt. Page 2 was a warning. When you're ready to apologize, we'll be here. I didn't reply. Cousin Amy called the next week. She told me something I didn't forget. At the wedding reception, after your message, your dad sat alone at table 4 for 20 minutes. Didn't speak. Didn't eat. Just stared at his phone. Then he stood up, walked to the microphone, and gave his toast like nothing had happened. She paused. He looked old, Tori. Really old. I didn't feel satisfaction. Not victory. Something quieter. Like a door closing on a room I no longer lived in. That month, I enrolled in an online MBA program. First class in January. GI Bill covered. I didn't call home. Home didn't call me. And for the first time in 30 years, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like something finally beginning. People will call you selfish for setting boundaries. Cold. Ungrateful. Heartless. But here's what I learned standing in that graduation line with empty seats behind me. The people who love you don't make you earn it. They show up. And if they don't show up, you are allowed to stop showing up too. That isn't cruelty. That isn't revenge. That's choosing peace over permission. That's my story. 3 empty chairs. 1 $8 Venmo. And a set of locks that changed everything. If this reminded you that your peace matters more than their approval, share it with someone who needs to hear it.